Now to Hygge, the Danish concept of coziness, and I hope you're feeling a little bit of that right now. There isn't actually a direct English translation, but it kind of means lighting the candles and sitting by a roaring fire, which, I mean, your heart at this point does go out to the people of Cumbria who may well not be feeling any of this right now, and indeed to those of us who are suffering in a slightly unseasonable way, just because it's not cold. And let's face it, it hasn't been cold for the whole of December, but let's pretend none of this is happening. Let's go to Denmark and hear about Hygge. Emma talked to HRussell, the British author of The Year of Living Danishly. Helen joined us from Denmark. And she talked to Susanne Nilsson, a Danish teacher at Morley College, who teaches Hygge in her lessons. Emma asked Susanne what Hygge was for her as a Dane.
It's just about taking time out from your life and enjoying the moment you're in, enjoying what you're doing in that very moment, and enjoying the people you're with as well. And that's kind of Hygge.
OK, let's bring Helen into this. Hello, Helen.
Hello there.
So you've been living in Denmark now. What was your first experience of this?
Well, I mean, it was a very strange concept to get my head around. People mentioned it as soon as we were there. We arrived in bleak midwinter. It was almost every second word. I mean, it's a real institution here. And the closest thing I got to get my head around was, as you say, candles, which you see everywhere, from in kids' nurseries to even in a camper van along a motorway was the most extreme example I've seen. And it just seems fundamental to living Danishly.
Well, yes, I read in your piece, or one of the pieces you wrote about this, that the Danes light more candles than any other European nation.
They do love a candle. I mean, I've just come from a cafe where I had my Danish pastry and a coffee, and candle on every table, no matter its light. I mean, it's not light much at this time of year, but even when the sun is attempting to shine, the candles are still on. So yes, that is key. And cake plays a big part as well, which is always handy.
Well, I'm very happy about that. I should say some beautiful biscuits have appeared in the studio. Can we talk about this, Susanne?
Yeah, so they're traditional Danish Christmas biscuits that my mum has kindly donated to the
show. That's
yeah.
Lovely. So if I eat those, am I achieving?
You're definitely on your way to more Hygge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was about to ask, how do you teach this concept?
Well, I mean, I teach it sort of two parts, I suppose, because one part is linguistically, because it's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective. And so there's ways of using it in language. And then also culturally, because it's such a big part of Danish life, as Helen said, it's everywhere. It's kind of almost like a sort of unconsciousness within the Danes. It's just there, but it's in everything they do.
It's in everything they do.
Well,
Helen, have you achieved this then? I mean, apart from lighting some candles, which, when I was reading about this last night, I lit a candle to try and get myself into the mood.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. For me, and Susanne can tell me if she thinks I've nailed it or not, but for me, Danes are really good at not depriving themselves of things. So they don't binge then purge. They don't do sort of the yo-yo dieting that we certainly, everyone used to go in for come January in the UK. So yeah, they're kind to themselves. They say yes to that glass of wine, yes to that cake. They spend time together as a family, which studies have shown really helps us to be happy.
Didn't you do this all before?
Well, I think what happens differently in the UK is that we maybe do these things, but we don't give it a name. We don't make it an event or a ceremony. And Danes, by calling it Hygge and making it something that you almost calendarize, that you think, well, we're going to have a Hygge time now. We're going to focus on this. It makes it a priority, and so you become more grateful for the little things, and it means that you're doing it more often, I think.
You're doing things more often. Is it easy to achieve this, Susanne, living in Britain as a Danish person?
Well, I mean, for me it is, because I suppose I carry it with me almost. But so it is. And I don't think it's as mystical as it might be sort of made up to be, I suppose. But I guess maybe the problem here is, for example, London, there's not that much time to have free time. And I think in Denmark there's that work-life balance, which is much, much more, I suppose, balanced. And I think that's missing here, especially in a big city like London. And I think that might be what's stopping people from having the time to really sort of actively enjoy themselves and take part in Hygge, if you like.
But some people listening to this will think, this just sounds like slobbing about and eating whatever you want, which sounds like Christmas.
It really isn't, because I think it's not something that, I mean, it can be a sort of planned activity, but I think it's more just a sort of almost like a way of thinking about feeling good about yourself in the moment and taking time to be in that moment. So yeah, you can have an extra slice of cake, or you can have wine or whatever, but it's more about appreciating the time and the space you're in and the people you're with.
Helen, this sounds awfully like mindfulness, which is obviously a trend that's been sweeping Western nations, because it's certainly not new to other parts of the world for some time.
Yeah, I think there is definitely something in that, and there's something about being present and being in the moment. And so, I mean, Scandinavians on the whole are pretty good at celebrating the seasons. They don't there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothes, like my grandmother always used to say. So they go out and embrace the elements no matter what. And there's something about, the changing seasons and just paying attention to what you're doing right now, as mindfulness also teaches us, that I think does contribute. Although, the Danes don't really call it that either. They just sort of think of it as what they do.
It's what they do. So what's been your most, living in Denmark first to you, Helen, what's been your most Hygge, there I go, I say it again, experience? I just feel like I've retched or something. Sorry, I'm trying to say it.
It does sound a lot like I'm clearing my throat when I try, so I'm still not quite there. I think when I first arrived, I was, arrived in a new country, didn't know anyone, didn't speak the language, and I just sort of said yes to any invitation that came my way, trying to make some Danish friends. And I ended up watching a blizzard from a hot tub with a beer in hand, and that felt quite Hygge. That felt quite a sort of a nice, cozy, being really grateful and really appreciative and spending time with other people. And then, just every day I light a candle at my desk where I work, and I just sort of rest my feet on my snoring dog and just sort of celebrate those little things.
Oh, this is lovely. I'm definitely up for the hot tub and blizzard bit. And let's hear what yours is then.
Well, is it the most Hygge moment?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I can find it as a one, but for example, I had dinner with some friends the other day and evening, and we were just sitting around chatting, and that I thought that was that was Hygge for me. Just having some nice people around you, having a good time, enjoying some wine and food. Perfect.
Yeah, I think I know what my definition would be. Taking a couple of ibuprofen whilst eating twiglets in my dressing gown, that sort of sums it up. But I hope you've had a bit of whatever suits you over the festive period. This is from Pippa. When my first child was a toddler, I made a batch of Scandinavian Christmas biscuits to decorate the tree. I looped them on ribbons to hang down the wall. Very festive. A couple of days later, I became aware of that particular silence which immediately has you racing to find out what your child is up to. He was sitting on the floor next to the wall, blissfully consuming the dozens of biscuits that showered down all around him. Well, he was having a good time.